I'm a black mom.
I am a black mom and I am beautiful.
I'm a black mom and I'm an educator.
I'm a black mom in public health.
I'm a black mom of two beautiful black boys.
I am a black mom raising a queen.
I am a black mom. I have experienced postpartum depression.
I'm a black mom and I've experienced postpartum depression.
I'm a black mom. I've experienced postpartum depression, and this is my story.
My name is Nia Kennedy, and I do a few things. I have a fragrance boutique called Her Essence. I am also a freelance marketing assistant for small companies, and I'm also an abstract artist. So yeah, do quite juggle a lot of things. So.
How many children do you have?
I have a 4-year-old daughter named Nyla. She's going on 30, but that's another.
Well, tell us a little bit more about Nyla.
She is. She's been here before. You know how old people say, like, that child's been here before. She's bossing everybody around, telling them my dad left his phone in my mom's office, and she gives him back the phone and said, "You left your phone in my office." Like, that's her office now, and you know, she bosses my siblings around. So she's a handful. The 4 years old, and she's one of the grown-ups in the house.
So I am a recent graduate from Morehouse School of Medicine, their Master of Public Health program. I have a husband and one child, a son named Bryson. I enjoy spending time with family, friends, and reading a good book.
Reading a good book. What's your favorite book?
Right now, I am finishing up a saga. I started it a while back, but now that school's over, I started to pick back up my reading list, so I'm finishing a saga.
So I am a mom of one. I'm 26, about to be 27. I went to Georgia State and got my bachelor's in journalism. I work in property management. Been in Atlanta all my life. I don't know. What else do you want to know?
Tell us about your little one.
So his name is Amari. He was born January 12th. He's a Capricorn. That little boy is all boy. Headstrong, determined, stubborn, unwavering. All his characteristics, I'm pretty sure, gets on my nerves now, but it's going to make him a successful man someday. He's so sweet though, so affectionate. He's learning his numbers. We're in the middle of potty training. We're working on colors and shapes as well. Like, I just love him.
It's a journey. It's kind of weird because right now Nyla is not with me full time. She's with my parents, and I'm thankful for that support system because it's still a journey. It's still I wouldn't call it a struggle. It's challenging. So sometimes I don't fully feel like a black mom. It's kind of hard to explain because of how she came into this world. Even though it was 4 years ago, I feel like I'm still dealing with it. So I don't really like celebrating Mother's Day. Like, my friends tell me Happy Mother's Day. Nyla will give me a card. But it's like, okay, am I really? Because she's not here with me like every day. So, but I love seeing her smile. I love making sure that she has everything in the world. It's just that connection of just feeling like, oh, okay, I am a black mom. It's like I have to remind myself, like, no, Nia, you are. So I would say it's challenging. But a journey, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, why don't you feel like
you're a black mom?
Because my doctor explained it to me that dealing with postpartum is also like the connection that you have with your child. And so what I feel sometimes is I have more of a sister relationship with Nyla than an actual mother and daughter connection. And so I feel like in order to fully be a black mom, to fully be that mom, like it's a different connection than what we have. So.
Would you say that you feel like you're the only black mom that has the same feeling or experience?
No, I know that other people have are experiencing what I'm experiencing, but because of how she came into this world and like how I found out, it's still like a shock to me, you know? So it's like I know people are out there. I don't know who's out there because it's like there's not really Facebook groups or Facebook that I know of that I can be like, okay, well this is going on. Oh, okay, that happened to me too. I found out during this time and went through this whole process, and I'm like, my story is so unique that I feel like you may relate, but the extent of what I'm feeling, I don't think people experience that.
I think being a black mom, you're wearing different hats. Sometimes there's pressure that comes along with it. Pressure of from family sometimes. Like for me personally, I grew up with my grandma and my mom, and so her experiences are much different than mine. So she, for example, we talked about depression finally, and she stated, I don't have the chance to be depressed and things of that nature. And so sometimes you kind of feel pressure, like our grandmothers, they dealt with a lot back in the day, and so you kind of feel that pressure of not coming off, or I guess looking weak. And same with my mom. She had twins, and so her same response was, I really didn't have the opportunity or the chance to even deal with my depression.
When you think about that, when they said opportunity, what do you think that means? Or what does that mean to you about having the opportunity?
I think for one, I felt like back then it wasn't really a discussion. Like you may go through the motions, but you kind of were occupied with working full time, being a mom and taking care of the house and things of that nature. And so because I'm familiar with it now, I was able to pick up signs and be aware. Back then, I don't think they were aware. They were just really going through the emotions. If they had a bad day where they just didn't feel like getting out of bed, they just still force themselves to get out of bed and continue to move.
Okay. Do you think that's attributed to how the narrative of black people in general, you know, like I'm too blessed to be stressed, you know?
I think so. I think it can. I just think for so long black women have been seen as strong. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it can, you know, be, you get down on yourself if you feel like you come off weak a little bit, just because of everything that our ancestors have went through, our grandmothers have went through, our mom as well. And so I think that contributes to a lot.
Okay. So today in today's society with social media, do you think social media also has like added pressure as far as being a perfect mom?
Definitely. I think I just talked about this recently. I think there's a pressure of after you have the baby and dropping that baby weight, I think there's pressure with that. Because a lot of women, they don't snap back right away. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that also added on to some depression for me, because I was constantly comparing myself to some of the mothers that I've seen on Instagram and different celebrities as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've been black all my life, so I don't know what it would be being any other kind of mom, but I guess digging deep, it's kind of worrisome, because you realize that this 2-year-old that people see in the store and they're like, oh, he's so cute now, in 10 to 12 years, they're gonna look at him and assume he's done something wrong if he has on a hoodie, or like you could just kind of wonder where that switch is gonna come. Like, when does he go from being cute and adorable to white women to being a threat? Like, when does that happen? So it's just kind of like trying to figure out in the future how I'm supposed to approach these conversations. It's a lot of praying. It's a lot of wishing that what we're experiencing now hopefully is not that way by the time he's our age, but I'm sure our parents hope the same thing, and their parents hope the same thing. So it's just being a black mom, it comes with all of the worries that being black in America is. Yeah, but at the same time I wouldn't trade it because I love being black.
I'm getting to the point where I'm dealing with it now, but I used to laugh about it, but me laughing about it was just covering up how, like, emotionally taxing it was. So I found out about my daughter when I was 5 months pregnant. So this whole time, like, having the constant cycles, I'm still hanging out with friends. Back in Tallahassee, I remember looking at old photos. I was in top flight with my friends and, like, didn't even know, like, okay, I was pregnant during this entire time. But I found out when I was 5 months pregnant. I was actually at a stoplight and I felt like a bump in my stomach, and I thought it was like, okay, I ate something bad. It's an upset stomach. And then Nyla literally, like, grabbed her foot and rubbed it across my stomach. So I'm like, oh no, so that's the baby in there. And I'm like, so I pulled over and I'm like, okay, so what's the next step to do? So I was shocked. It took me a couple of days to process, like, okay, there's a child in my stomach. Went to the doctor and she was like, oh, you're 25 weeks. Do you want to know if it's a boy or a girl? And I'm like, well, since we're here, we might as well. So she told me it was a girl. So I'm like, not only am I 5 months pregnant, it's a girl. I don't know how to tell my mom. My mom didn't know at the time. So I reached out to an adoption lawyer because I felt like I'm the oldest of 5. So I told myself, my parents are dealing with enough right now. So me being 21, 5 months pregnant, like, I can't handle this on my own. I'm going to, you know, the best option was adoption. So I didn't tell my family. I wore baggy clothes. I wore dreads, so they would be more focused on, like, why does she have dreads than, oh no, this girl is pregnant. So I was doing all of these things, switching up, and then it was a week before I was about to have Nyla. Imagine this whole summer. The whole summer I was working jobs. I was a pizza delivery person. I was working in a leasing office. I was just doing dead-end jobs. And the week before, I was at a company function, and I get a call from my parents. And the first question that they ask me when I answer the phone is, Nia, are you pregnant? And I'm like, I just bust out crying, and they were like, are you pregnant? I said, yes. They asked me, when am I due? And I said, next week. And apparently, because my mom is from Tallahassee, and it's such a small town, that somebody she went to high school 30 years ago knows somebody that apparently I know that called her from a Facebook, which is, it's just really weird how they found her number on Facebook and called her and said, when's the last time you saw your daughter? And I was like, oh, well, I just talked to her, like, you know, a couple of days ago. They were like, no, when's the last time you saw her? And so they're like, you need to see her because she's pregnant. And so I remember in my head during this whole summer, why I didn't tell my mom is because I remember hearing her say, well, like, yeah, child, because, I'm not ready to be a grandma, or, little things like that. So I already felt down, like, if she finds out this, they're, not going to talk to me anymore. I'm going to be all on my own. I can't do this. Like, she doesn't want to be a grandma. So I'm just basically talking all of these things in my head. And I ultimately feel like that also played into me just going through postpartum, that transition, because up until like a week before, I had a whole different plan. I emotionally prepared for that plan. I mentally prepared for that plan. And then it just to be pulled under the rug last minute, it's like, I feel like some days I'm still dealing with that. And she's now 4 years old, so, yeah.
So, when you found out that the plan has switched and now you're going to be a mom, what feelings were you feeling?
It was one of those things where, like, I remember it was Mother's Day, and me and my mom, we got into an argument about something, and I just remember saying, like, I wish she knew. And then it was when we were taking hospital tours with the adoptive family, and they asked for a emergency contact. I was like, I wish my mom knew. So this whole time I'm wishing that she knew. And then for her to find out in the weirdest of ways, it was just like, I couldn't bring myself to do it. But I'm glad somebody did, because they could see, like, my mom is my rock. She is my support system. So for me not to have her there, it needs to be done. Like, I was lost in my thoughts. And then thinking of, like, okay, well, now you're about to be a mom, but at least you have the support system of your family. I felt a little bit better, but it's still like, I'm mentally preparing myself that I was going to have an open adoption. I was going to see her in pictures, and I wanted Nyla, but I remember the adoptive family wanted to name her Julia, and I know that just didn't sit right in my spirit, because I was like, she wasn't a Julia. I just felt it, like, you can feel who your children are going to be, and I'm like, she's not going to be a Julia. So it was everything during this whole time. It's still been a process, just a process of, like, okay, now things have changed. Now you're a mom. Now, like, she's getting older. It's just a day-to-day process of just pushing forward.
So me personally, I am a planner, and so I didn't plan to have my baby like until another 5 years. And so when I found out, I was in shock. And I told my husband, he was just like, well, we're just gonna do what we gotta do type stuff. Like, he's a very easy flowing type person, but me, I was a planner. So I called my mom, and I was like crying, like, Mom, I'm pregnant. And she was happy because she was ready for grandkids, but I was just like, hey, this was not part of my plan. So originally I wasn't excited, but as time went on, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a mom. And so I got okay with becoming a mom.
And what was your pregnancy like?
So my pregnancy for the most part was really good. As in, like, symptom wise, I really didn't have morning sickness. I was still in school. I did my whole program pregnant. That was a little difficult, but I didn't have any major complications with my pregnancy. I did have gestational diabetes towards the end, but for the most part, I feel like my pregnancy was pretty good.
Okay.
So we were at his dad's apartment, and it was just like little stuff that was kind of weird. Like, his dad kept saying, like, you need to take a pregnancy test. And I'm like, boy, I'm not pregnant. Leave me alone. And it was like little stuff, like my skin was dry. was maybe like 4 days late on my period. It wasn't like, I'm like, it's coming. And I was cramping, so I felt like it was coming. But I just wanted his dad to leave me alone. So I'm like, if I take the pregnancy test, will you leave me alone? So he's like, yeah. So we go in the bathroom, I take it, and I'm like, shit. And that was it. Like, it was like, oh, you were right. And his dad was like, we're gonna be okay. And that was it. Like, in the bathroom at his dad's apartment, like, pregnant. That was it. And then I called my brother. My brother was the first person I called. I found out the day before Mother's Day in 2017.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So, how was your pregnancy from finding out you were pregnant until you delivered?
Physically or emotionally?
Both?
My pregnancy physically was not bad. I gained a lot of weight. By the time I had him, I was like 247 pounds, like unrecognizable. I was huge. I gained a lot of weight, but I had no complications, nothing like that. Emotionally, it was a little stressful because of like, mostly like the financial part, trying to figure that out. And then on top of that, I had just got accepted into a master's program right before I found out I was pregnant. I started that master's program in August, which at that point I was 6 months pregnant. And I ended up having to drop out of the master's program in October because I realized I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't be 8 months pregnant, work full time, which I didn't have a choice but to do, and get my master's. It was too much. It wasn't enough time in a day. So that kind of took a toll, having to quit that. And then just figuring out finances was a lot of it. Then me and his dad adjusting to living together and preparing for a baby. But so I think that's where it kind of started, like trying to adapt to like what was coming. But physically, I had no complications. My pregnancy was fine.
Right after I had her, like, when I tell people all the time, like, that time is, that time is like a huge part of my trauma, because I just, even up to me having her, I thought it was going to be a regular delivery, because like I've already went through hell with this pregnancy. I spent the last stretch of it in the hot summer months in Florida while I'm trying to wear baggy clothes. Like, I wanted everything to be over with. And then the last minute they tell me that there's fluid around her, so then I have to have a C-section. And so now I'm scared, because it's like, now you're telling me my birthing, I had a birthing plan that was changed, and it's like, I don't do with quick shifts. I don't deal with quick shifts easily. So I'm already switching that, okay, she's not going up for adoption. I'm already switching, I'm not having the baby in Tallahassee, I'm back here in Atlanta. Now it's not a regular birth, it's a C-section. Then the day that I come in for a C-section, they tell me, well, we can't do it at this hospital, you have to go to another hospital on the other side of town. So I had Nyla Northside here in Atlanta, but that was a 45-minute drive from where we were. So it's like, now I'm in pain. Then the doctors tell me, like, okay, well, you can't eat for 24 hours. So now I'm just dealing with all of these emotions. Like, I'm not used to seeing all of these nurses, these doctors, because I didn't find out that until I was 5 months, I didn't have that much prenatal care. So then they start sticking me with IVs. I already don't like needles. So it was just very, very taxing. And luckily my mom was there, but even being in the hospital after, because she had fluid around her, they put her in the NICU. So we were there for a week. I'm recovering from a C-section. She's in NICU. I can barely go up there and see her. Then I left the hospital before she did. And it was just an event, one thing after another to where I'm just like, I can't catch up. It's just, things are constantly happening. And so I emotionally checked out for a long period of time, and mentally checked out too. And I think that's also what furthered the gap of me just trying to rebuild that connection.
I would probably say when I got home, like, so my husband was aware because one of his close friends had recently had a baby as well. He had already talked to us like postpartum is real. And so at first when I wasn't feeling it, he thought I was going through it, and I was like, babe, I'm not going through it right now. And then like once we got home, it kind of just, I would say probably a couple of days, he went back to work maybe a couple of days to a week after we had our child, and that's when I feel like it like hit me. I was really nervous about with him leaving because I breastfed, and so he really would help me and the baby latched on, and so I was really nervous with him leaving because like, how am I going to do this without him here or whatever. So that was nerve-wracking. And then when I went back to school, which was a couple of weeks after I had my child, and then I went back to work maybe 3 weeks afterwards, and those two things kind of kept me occupied mentally because I was doing so much work. And so as my grandma would say, I didn't have the chance to really, you know, go through the motions of being depressed. But it really wasn't, it didn't really hit me until once I graduated, when I didn't have any more distractions. It was me and my baby at home by ourselves primarily, and that's when it really just hit me.
I remember his first doctor's appointment. I couldn't go because of my C-section. I stayed on the 3rd floor, and I cried my eyes out for like an hour. Like, I called my mom, and she said she thought the baby had passed because I was crying so hard because I couldn't go to the doctor's appointment. And I think that's when it started. Like, I noticed my attachment to him, which I didn't think it was weird, but my mom is like, she felt like that was part of like my postpartum. It was like I wasn't like happy or okay unless he was with me. And that's when we noticed like I had a hard time being away. Like I couldn't be away from him, or I would be depressed like anytime he would leave.
What did you think was going to happen when he left?
I don't know. I don't know if it was that I thought something would happen, or I really don't know if it was that I thought something would happen to him, or I just felt like, if I felt like I was a bad mom if he wasn't with me. I think that was more so it. Like, I felt like he's supposed to be with me all the time, and if he's not, I'm a bad mom. I think that was my thought process.
So would you say like mom guilt?
Yes, that's it.
I felt like something was just pressing on my chest, and I just felt, I know how you can physically feel down, but I just physically felt like I couldn't move sometimes, and sometimes I didn't. Like, my friends would have to knock on the door like, are you okay, because 2 days have gone by, and I would just be still in the bed and only get up when I have to go to the bathroom. And it just physically felt down. I just, like, I don't know how to put that in words, but I think I did put it in words. But, but yeah, that's how I felt. I just physically exhausted.
Mm-hmm. And how did you feel spiritually?
Pretty broken. Because, like I said, I had a plan. And I felt at that time like I was searching. I remember the nights that I couldn't sleep. I was looking back on like all the things I did, and I'm just like, well, God, what did I do? Like, I didn't feel his presence as much. I felt like he had forgot all about me.
It was struggling to get out of bed. If it wasn't for getting up to make sure I take care of my son, then I would have stayed in bed all day. I stopped cooking. I ordered food. I was eating in my bed. I didn't want to shower, anything like that. If I breastfed him, I was good. Like, long as I knew he ate, I was good. So my husband primarily, he picked up the work, so he would work. As soon as he come home from work, he would take Bryson for me. I lost all motivation to do anything. Like, by then they were taking my son like out for walks because he loves outside. And Quan was like, you know, let's go to the park with Bryson, or let's go for a walk. And I was just like, I can't. And so finally I gathered enough strength to, okay, let me just go outside, or because he really does joy outside. And I literally got out our driveway, maybe walked 2 feet, and was just like, I can't. And I ran back in the house and just jumped in bed. So that was a lot of it. Crying. I went to sleep all the time. I was very moody. So I know I wasn't the easiest person to be around.
And what kind of thoughts would like go through your head?
Originally, when I first had him, for the first couple of weeks, it was, and this is stuff I never even shared with my husband or friends, but I had thoughts of my child being harmed, and it was from me. Like, it was, I guess there were dreams or something, but it was thoughts of harming my child. And I just would like snap out of it, like, okay, and I would like go rush to see where he is, making sure he wasn't harmed. So those were the main thoughts early on after I had him. Towards this past summer, my thoughts were just feeling like I was just a horrible mom and just not really being deserving, like being a good mom. I felt like I was a horrible mom. Like, what kind of mom doesn't like bathe their child type stuff, or even bathe herself? So
I felt maybe defeated. It was a mixture of feeling defeated and the exhaustion, and then just feeling sad all the time. Like, I remember just wanting to be happy. Like, when am I gonna actually feel happy? Like, even if I had a good day, or if I was around family and good things happened, I never felt happy. Like, it wasn't ever a genuine happiness that I felt. And I remember just missing feeling happy. So I just remember feeling sad all the time. I felt sad. I felt isolated. I think loneliness was a big thing. I felt really lonely, which, I mean, I had people around me, but I remember feeling so lonely for over a year and a half. But I think sadness and just feeling defeated were the main things.
No, not really. So, when I went in for my checkup, I talked to my doctor about how I was feeling.
Your 6-week checkup.
Yes. So my 6-week checkup, I was telling her how I was feeling and how everything happened. She read my chart. So apparently, the one time when I found out I was pregnant with her, I just spilled my guts to the nurse and the doctor, and apparently they typed out all of that into my file. So every time a doctor read my file, they're like, well, with what you're experiencing now and the trauma that you went through with this pregnancy, like, that's postpartum depression. And then I was like, I already been diagnosed with severe depression. Like, what's going on? Like, what are my steps from here? And she helped me, but telling other people is kind of like a brush off. You know, like, okay, people are not aware of what postpartum is, and so it's just like, okay, you're just sad right now, you know. So that's when I started doing my own research. After I spoke with the doctor, it was still like, okay, people don't really understand what you're going through, so you have to do the research yourself. You can talk to your doctor, but you have to do the research yourself. And so that's what I did, and that's what.
The first person I would say was my husband, and then my best friend, who at the time when we were living at the apartment, she lived in the same apartment complex as me. And so I really noticed it like when my husband would go, it was just me and the baby. And she would know that I'm alone, so she'll be like, okay, I got breakfast, you bring Bryson over type stuff. So she was there with me. Or if I was trying to balance doing schoolwork and dealing with a crying baby, she's like, well, come on over, I'll watch Bryson while you complete this assignment. So my best friend and my husband were the first two that I confided in.
And how did that conversation go?
He was very understanding and he's very supportive. And so I think we kind of talked about before I got pregnant because I'm in public health, so I was very aware of everything. So we kind of talked about it. And as I stated, his friend was like, yeah, that's real. Like the mother of my child went through it and I didn't know anything about it until she went through it. And so that he started doing research on his own. He reached out to my family. He reached out to some of his cousins who also had babies recently and prior to, just asking, hey, what can I do to support her and like be there for her?
My best friend and my son's dad, well, my best friend at the time and my son's dad, I did confide in them both. They knew. My son's dad, as much as he tried to like kind of understand, one, I don't think he really understood what postpartum was. Two, we didn't realize that's what it was until a year later. So at that point, he probably thought I was crazy. And it's a lot of like, speak positive. Like, you just can't speak negatively. Like, you gotta put positive thoughts into the universe. You gotta change your way of thinking. And that doesn't help. So I would get frustrated with him, push him away because he wasn't saying the right thing. My best friend at the time was really supportive. I think she was the only person that really understood, but to a certain extent, because you really don't understand unless you have gone through it. It's hard to understand. So on that end, I think I may have seemed like a bad friend because I wasn't like, I mean, friendship, any relationship takes work, and I didn't have the energy to give. So, I don't know. I think people only understand to a certain extent unless they've been through it. But I would confide in my best friend at the time and my son's dad.
So after a year of having Nyla, I talked to my doctor about it. She prescribed me antidepressants, but I just felt mute. I felt like I am a hyper person. I'm an energetic person, sometimes a little crazy. And for me to just be bleh, like even with depression, when I wasn't on them, it's like I had my low moments, but I also had like my fun and energetic moments. Like it was a wave. But being on them, I just felt like everything was in grayscale, and I hated that feeling. So I weaned myself off them like 3 weeks after taking it. And ever since then, now I'm like, I'm certified in aromatherapy. I'm working on my certification in herbalism. So it's like I'm doing the alternative medicines and practices like that, because taking those pills, I'm not doing them again. So I know that there's other alternatives out there for me. Just finding that particular one is just trial and error right now.
I was nervous that if I were to see a professional, that they would try to prescribe me some type of medication for depression or anxiety. And just speaking with different moms that I've interacted with, they were prescribed medication. I personally, I just hate medication in general. Even if I got a flu or a cold, I just hate taking medication. So I knew I just did not want to be medicated. So that was my primary reason for kind of tiptoeing around my provider at my 6 weeks appointment. When you answer those questions, was kind of tiptoeing around. I kind of knew what to say, what not to say, because I just was really nervous about being prescribed medication.
Okay. Did you ever have any thoughts of also if you were to seek professional help that, you know, like your baby might be taken away from you?
That part, not really. I thought that maybe if I kind of expressed the thoughts that I had, or the visions or dreams, whatever those were, that maybe someone would take him or look at me kind of sideways as a mom. But I did finally seek therapy this summer, which was really good. They didn't prescribe me anything. But it was more so of a lifestyle change, like forcing myself to kind of get out and go for walks and things like that were very beneficial. And eventually going to therapy, going outside for walks, getting fresh air, journaling, things like that, knowing like my triggers was very beneficial for me.
At one point I was seeking help, like I was looking, like reaching out on Google, like, okay, how do I find a therapist? I didn't even know where to start. But then it just seemed like too much to try to figure out. So I kind of gave up. And then it wasn't until maybe a few months ago, my son is about to be 3 in January. It was maybe about 5 months ago that I started feeling like, oh, I'm getting back to me again. So I don't know. I'm not sure what happened. Like, I don't know if my hormone levels or whatever the case is in my body started bouncing out, but there was nothing that I did. Like, I can say maybe it was God, but there was nothing I did actively that helped me, like, beat postpartum. I just kind of dealt with it until I felt like, okay, maybe it's going away now.
So, in hindsight, do you wish that you would have sought professional help?
In hindsight, I wish that I knew what I was dealing with in the very beginning, like in the first few months of my son's life, to either talk to his doctor or talk to my doctor or let somebody know what was going on. But I just didn't know. In hindsight, I wish I would have way earlier, because now for the first 2.5 years of my son's life, that's all I think about, like, was how rough it was. Like, those were the worst years of my life, and it was the first 2 years of my son's life. So I wish I could have, like, not had to deal with it. Like, I lost so many relationships, so many friendships, like, during that time. So I really wish I would have got help earlier. Yeah. And I also wish that it was a way for me to know earlier what it was I was dealing with. Nobody told me, his doctor, anything. Like, those little sheets you fill out that's supposed to tell you if you're dealing with postpartum, that didn't help me. That didn't tell me anything. I just thought, I'm fine. I'm just exhausted. I don't know. I feel like my doctor, somebody should have been there to say, like, okay, are you dealing with, it should have been a wider spectrum instead of like all the way to the right where it's like, okay, are you trying to kill yourself? No, you're fine. Somebody should have said something. Yeah. I really regret that I dealt with it that long.
Say it's take it day by day. Don't try to yank yourself out of it. It's a process. It will continue to be a process, but it's going to be okay. If you feel like you can't talk to a family member or talk to a significant other, then I would suggest seeking a therapist. That really helps me out in this process, because I felt like at certain points nobody's going to understand. Nobody's going to feel what I'm feeling, but a therapist has talked to numerous women that are feeling the same way. So I just would say, if you can't speak to anybody else, I strongly suggest seeking a therapist and doing research yourself. There's also like books and podcasts. I know people are doing podcasts now, but just doing the research if you feel the will to. And you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to do it a week. You don't have to give yourself a deadline. Take it a step. Take it day by day.
The biggest thing is know your support system, or create a support system, whether it be a friend, your partner, a family member. I really think that if I didn't have my support system, my husband, my friends, my grandparents helped out, my parents helped out like significantly. Like, if I didn't have my support system, I really think that I'd have been worse off. I was very privileged to be like, okay, I can't do it today, and my mom like, okay, I got him, or my husband, I got him, or my grandma, or whatever the case may be. So definitely lean on your support system. Don't think of yourself as being weak because you have to lean on others during this time. I would say, if you feel off, reach out to your provider. Don't be afraid like I was, but really reach out to them. Everybody's not medicated. Now that I'm learning, talking to other women, everybody's not medicated. So I do urge you to reach out to your provider if you have like any concerns or you just feel off.
I guess if you feel like you are just to the core not happy, whether it's postpartum or anything else, you need to seek help. Like, you need to talk to somebody. It's people out there for that. Like, that's their job, to talk to people that may be dealing with any kind of mental illness or any kind of sadness that's affecting like the normal way that you function. Like, if you realize that is different and you can't really put your finger on it, talk to somebody just to make sure like you're okay, because you don't want to deal with it for 2 years, and at that point you've lost 2 years of your life. I mean, you haven't lost 2 years of your life, but it's like for the first 2 years of my son's life, I just see that as like the worst years of my life, and you don't want to deal with that. I would just say talk to somebody. Like, seek help, seek professional help, talk to somebody. Confide in someone first. If that doesn't work, talk to somebody. Like, go get real help.
Patience. Patience goes a long way, because looks can be deceiving. And we already feel like we already have so much intense emotion around the subject. So we can also feel when people just think, oh, okay, well, it's just this, or she's just doing this, or she's just, like, we hear this, we feel this. So being patient and minding what you say around somebody dealing with postpartum, that goes a long way. It does.
I can understand that it's difficult to know what you're dealing with if you haven't been through it. And it is difficult to know what to say. And honestly, when you're in that place, or that person is in that place, they really don't want to hear what you have to say anyway. I don't think there's anything that you can say. So it's a matter of, my biggest thing was just support. Even if you don't know what to say, just letting them know that you're there, and that you're not, whatever they're going through, you're not holding it against them.
Well, back then I was in Tallahassee. I'm in Atlanta now. Things are actually looking up. I feel like for the first time, I'm taking positive steps forward. Like, I have my own business. I have a home that I love. My dating life, I found somebody that I can talk to about what I'm dealing with. And, sorry. Because the hardest thing, dealing with this has been, sorry, my phone's stupid. The hardest thing about this has been on the dating side, but finding somebody that wants to be there for you, and he does research on his own as my support system. And I just feel like that's what I've been praying for. That's what I've been asking for. And it's a positive step forward. It really is. And it's refreshing too. So it's like I didn't need that plan that I had, because where I'm going is like far better. And yeah, it's still a step by step. It's still a day by day. Like, the batteries in the smoke detector, I completely forgot about that, but it's getting better. It is.
I can finally say I'm done. It's been, my son is 18 months. Yeah, next week he'll be 18, this week he'll be 18 months. So I feel completely different than when I felt the last 18 months of my life. So I believe I'm completely done with it.
I enjoy other people's company again. I'm not like super isolated or want to be by myself all the time. Like, I'm finally back to me. Like, once you have a child, I don't know if you're ever going to be 100% back to you. But I'm like 90% there. Like